Okay, algebra students, so we are going to continue working on this idea of factoring. And the 7.3 and the 7.4 sections in chapter 7 are probably the most important sections you could ever learn in math at all. We use this concept of factoring in algebra. We use it in geometry. We use it in algebra 2. We use it in pre-calculus. We use it all the time. And year after year after year, this is probably the part where kids struggle the most. So it's really important that we are finding whatever hints that we can to make sure that we understand this. So what we're factoring is we're going to factor the pattern of x squared plus bx plus c. And so that pattern is this one right here. I recommend highlighting that really quick in your notes because what's really important about that is that there's no number in front of x squared, which makes it a little bit easier. But the process I'm going to teach you is going to be the same process we're going to use when there's a number in front of x squared, which those are the really tricky ones. Those are the ones that in Algebra 2 kids still struggle with factoring, and in pre-calc kids still struggle with factoring because they never really learned how to do it correctly the first time in Algebra 1. So we're going to factor x squared plus 15x plus 36. And so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the first and last terms. So here's my first and here's my last. And when I multiply that, I get this 36x squared. So I'm just going to kind of make a list of everything that multiplies to be 36x squared. And when I do that, I'm going to do it kind of in a logical order. So 1 times 36 gives me 36. And I have x's with each of them. And then 2 times 18 gives me 36. And then 3 times 12 gives me 36. And if you have a hard time doing this division in your head, then when you make your factor list, and that's what this is a factor list, use a calculator. Take 36 and divide it by 1. Take 36 divided by 2, then by 3. 36 divided by 4. And that'll give you your other number. 36 divided by 5. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, 36 divided by 6, and I get 6. And then you'll usually get to a point where you end up back at your original number. So 1, 2, 3, 5 didn't work, 6, and then I have 6 on this side. And so that means that I'm really done because as I work my way back up, I'll get 9, which is already here in my list. Now once I have my factor list, and I'm getting really wordy because it's all about explaining how this works, I want to figure out which of these numbers will give me that middle term 15x. So which of these add to be 15x. And so when I look, these two add to be 15x. So what I do is I rewrite my original thing. So it is x squared. And then instead of this 15x, I'm going to write these two numbers right here. 3x and 12x. And then plus 36. So all I did is I rewrote this original equation where instead of the 15, I now have that 3 plus 12. And the reason why I do that is now I can do that factor by grouping we talked about in class last time. So now I take my first two terms, I factor out the common factor. I take my last two terms, I factor out the common factor. So this is x, and then x plus 3. This is 12. And then surprise, x plus 3. And then I factor out that x plus 3. And whatever's left is my next factor. So this is x plus 3 times x plus 12. Now, another question people ask me is this the same answer as x plus 12 times x plus 3? And I usually answer them with another question. Is 3 times 2 the same thing as 2 times 3? And yes, that's the commutative property. 3 times 2 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6. So it doesn't matter the order that you multiply because you're going to end up with the same answer. So this is the same answer as that. Okay, so we're going to practice some more. So we're going to go ahead and look at x squared and 24. So I'm going to go ahead and make my list for 24. X squared. So 1x, 24x, 2x, 12x, 3x, 8x, 4x, and 6x. So what from my list gives me the 10x? Well, the 4 and the 6. So now I'm ready to rewrite this. X squared plus 4x plus 6x plus 24. I factor out my common factor for the first two, common factor for the last. So I get x times x plus 4. Then I get 6 times x plus 4. This is what tells me if I factored it right. Do the x plus 4's match? Yes, so I factor those out. Whatever is left behind is our answer. So this is the final answer. Okay, so our next problem, again, we multiply first and last. 5x squared. So I'm going to make a list of all things that multiply to be 5. 1x and 5x. Okay, do those add to be 6x? Yes, they do. So this becomes x squared plus 1x plus 5x plus 5. Factor out my common factor. So now I get x times x plus 1. 5 times x plus 1. Oh, they match, so now I factor out the x plus 1. And I get x plus 5. Okay, so that's using our factoring by grouping. What I want to talk to you about now is how to do the same thing but using the box method. So our process is really similar. We take our first and last and we multiply them. So 15x squared. I list all things that multiply to 15x squared, so 1x and 15x, 3x and 5x. And which of those add to be negative 8x? Well, none of them add to be negative 8x, which means that really I forgot some factors. And what I forgot was my negative factors. So if this is a positive number, I actually have options of negative 1x and negative 15x, a negative 3x, and a negative 5x. So now when I start including those negative factors, now I can find the correct numbers, negative 3x and negative 5x. So now our option is we could do grouping method, which we worked on before, so there's no big deal. But now we can actually do the box method. And some people really like the box method here instead of doing the grouping method. And so with the box method, everything that's circled goes inside the box. So here I have x squared, that's going to go there. Here I have 15, and that's going to go there. And then my other two are going to go in the other diagonal. So negative 3x and a negative 5x. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor. So what's common here? X. What's common here? Negative 3. Okay, what's common here? X. What's common here? Negative 5. And then we can double check. And this is why I like the box method. So if you accidentally factor out the wrong thing, you can erase it and fix it. So here I can just check, is x times x, x squared? Yep. Is x times negative 5, negative 5x? Is negative 3 times x, negative 3x? Is negative 3 times negative 5, 15? Yes. And so now I actually have my answer. The first polynomial is right here, x minus 3. The second polynomial is right here, x minus 5. And that's our answer. So just another way for those of you who may want another method to use it. You could have done it by grouping if you wanted to. You could have done x squared minus 3x minus 5x plus 15. I could have pulled the common factor x out here, the common factor negative 5. Why negative? Because this is negative. And so then this is going to be x minus 3. This will be negative 5, x minus 3. They both have an x minus 3, so I factor that out. Boom, boom. What's left behind? X minus 5. And you can tell box method, factoring by grouping, same exact answer. So lots of options. Certain options work better with some brains, some work better with others. And I can honestly tell you that when we get to the harder problems, I use the box method. That's my method of preference. But that's okay. What was I taught in high school? I was taught the grouping method. Some teachers teach a guess and check method, which is fine for some people. Some people can naturally look at it and know what it factors into. Some cannot. So I like having a method to use for when I don't know the answer just by looking at it. So let's go ahead and look at our next problem. We times, so we get 6x squared. What multiplies to be 6x squared? Well, 1x and 6x, 2x and 3x. We also have the negative versions, negative 1x, negative 6x, negative 2x, negative 3x. What adds to be negative 5? Well, these add to be negative 5. So then we can go ahead and use box method. Everything that's circled goes inside the box. X squared plus 6. And over here we have the negative 2x and the negative 3x. And then we go ahead and we look for common factors. Well, both of these can be divided by x. Both of these can be divided by 2. Both of these can be divided by x. And both of these can be divided by 3. And so now I check. Is x times x squared? Good. Is x times 3 negative 3x? No. So it looks like I need a negative. If I put a negative, x times negative 3, yep, that works now. X times 2 give me negative 2x? No. So I have to change that to negative. So now x times negative 2, that works. Negative 2 times negative 3, does that give me 6? Yes, I'm good. So then this side's my one answer, x minus 2. The other side is my other answer, x minus 3. Okay, and so we're going to practice a couple more. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more box methods, and then I'll do the last two as the grouping method. Again, there are other methods out there. Some of you may see a shortcut, because there is a shortcut to these, but I'm not going to tell you because the shortcut doesn't work for the hard problems that we'll do in 7-4. So I don't like showing the shortcut, but if you see it, you can use it with these problems as long as there's just an x squared. If it has a 2x squared, you can't do that anymore. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and work on the next one with the box method. So x squared minus 18. So we have a negative 18 x squared. I'm going to make my list. So I'm going to have a negative 1x and an 18x, a negative 2x and a 9x, a negative 3x and a 6x, because one of my numbers has to be negative. But then I also have the opposite, so a positive 1x and a negative 18x, a positive 2x and a negative 9x, a positive 3x and a negative 6x. Now I'm looking what adds to be negative 3. So negative 3 is going to be a positive 3 and a negative 6. So now we can go ahead to our box method if we like. So draw a box. Everything that's circled goes in the box. So x squared minus 18, 3x, and negative 6x. We pull out common factors. So let's see, across this way we have x. Across this way we have 3. Positive 3. Across here, or up, we go have x. And up we have 2 negatives, so negative and I'm not really sure. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to go ahead and check other stuff. So x times x gives me x squared. Now x times what will give me negative 6x? Well, negative 6. So now that works. So now I'm going to keep trying the rest. I need to check out the rest of it. So x times 3 gives me 3x. Does 3 times negative 6 give me negative 18? Yes, it does. So the negative 6 was good, which means my answer is x plus 3 and x minus 6. Okay, we're going to move to the next one. So we take first and last. We multiply, so negative 15x squared. We make our list, negative 1x, 15x. 2 doesn't go, so 3, negative 3x, and 5x. Then we flip signs, 1x, negative 15x. 3x and negative 5x. What adds to be positive 2x? Positive 2x will be this one. So now I'm going to take all the circled parts, put it in the box. X squared, negative 15. And then over here we have the negative 3x and the positive 5x. So we pull out common factors. So x, negative 3, x, positive 5. Okay, so double check. X times x squared. X times 5 is 5x. X times negative 3, negative 3x. Negative 3 times 5, negative 15. We're good. So our answer is x minus 3 times x plus 5. Okay, so we've done enough box methods. We're going to go back to grouping, so that way you can see that again. So again, starts off the same, first and last. So negative 20x squared. So we're going to have a negative 1x and a 20x, negative 2x and a 10x. 3 doesn't go, but 4 does, negative 4x and 5x. And it looks like we're done. So now we're going to flip 1x, negative 20x, 2x, negative 10x, 4x, negative 5x. What's going to add to be negative 8? Well, looks like this one. So now I'm going to put all the circled terms there. So x squared, I replace this with a positive 2x and a negative 10x, and then the negative 20. So again, replacing this with these two. Those go right there. I find my common factor, x, common factor, negative 10. So this is x times x plus 2. This is negative 10. X negative divided by negative is positive, plus 2. Excellent, they match. So I pull out that common factor of x plus 2. Boom, boom. What's left behind is my next factor, x minus 10. So again, different methods, different brains, and it's okay. You pick which works best for you. So next one, x squared, negative 48. So we multiply negative 48x squared. We make a list. 1x, negative 48x. 2x, negative 24x. Okay, I know 3 goes. How many times? Oh, I don't know. I gotta grab the calculator. 48 divided by 3 is 16. Okay, 4 goes. Negative 12. 5 doesn't go. Let's see, 6. 6 should go 8 times. And then 7 doesn't go. Then we end up back at 8. We have those. Okay, why did I choose to do my list like this? Well, I know they have to add to be a negative number. So I know that in my list, the bigger number has to be negative. So what in the list adds to be negative 13? That would be this. So I have x squared, and I'm replacing the negative 13 with this. So plus 3x, minus 16x, and minus 48. Now I'm going to pull a common factor, x. These are both negative 16. So I get x times x plus 3. Negative 16 times x, 48 divided by 16 is 3. Those match, so I pull out the x plus 3, and I get x minus 16. So some things that you're going to find. You're going to find that if you assume that these numbers don't work, and you don't actually try, like most people don't know that 3 goes into 48, so they don't try it, and they mess up because they can't find the right factors. So go numerically, 1, 2, 3, 4, try 5, it didn't work, so I don't put in the list, 6, 7, so on and so forth. Don't assume that using this is going to work out. So sometimes you may pull out the number 8 here instead of 16, which will not make this automatically match up. So if you're not careful about pulling out the greatest common factor and double checking, it's not going to work out. So take your time. Use a calculator to help you. If you are not good at multiplying and dividing in your head, have a calculator every step of the way, the entire chapter. Don't just use your phone though, because sometimes the touchscreen phones will mess you up because you think you touched number, it didn't register, or you end up touching it twice. Use a real regular calculator. Okay, we'll see you next time.